hereby call this council meeting to order. I'd like to ask everyone to please rise for a moment of silence. Please be seated. Disclosure of pecuniary interest and nature thereof. Seeing none, we'll move on to the adoption of the September 6th regular council meeting minutes. We have it moved by Councillor Drew, seconded by Councillor Watton. Any errors, omissions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. So, next item of business is the closed session. We had a closed session before the open session, and we have a resolution in open session that was moved by Councillor Watt and seconded by Councillor Guido, that the preferred candidate for the position of Deputy Fire Chief be offered the position and related compensation package in accordance with the terms discussed in camera. So, questions or comments on that? All those in favor? Carried. Next item of business are the announcements, but before we get to announcements, I just wanted to state that this is our first in-council camera recording session of open session, so we're going to call it a beta test because we don't know how well it's going to turn out. So after it gets cropped and uploaded to the destination, it's going to be a township YouTube channel, is the plan. So hopefully by the next council meeting we can determine the quality of that and how successful it was. So this is a step that, further step for openness and transparency. So there are notices, just in case you hadn't noticed, that are advising around here that you're not recorded as an audience. It's just one camera pointing towards mayor and council and CAO and clerk. But there may be voice that will be picked up if you are speaking at a public meeting. Councillor Watton, did you have a question or comment on that?
I was just going to ask if we were allowed to see what got cropped and what was left.
The dead space at the beginning of the, that's the only intention, I think, for cropping is the beginning and end, because it's a tedious process to convert the image and render it and upload it. So we want to upload it as highest resolution as possible because there is only one camera, so it's got a wide span. So anyway, so welcome to the rest of the world if this actually makes it up there. Don't hold it against us. So, the next item on the agenda is we have announcements. Councillor Back.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'd like to let everyone know that this week the Care and Share Permaculture Community Garden that is located at the fairgrounds, the Port Perry Fairgrounds, was one of 150 winners of a national contest that was awarding 1,000 tulip bulbs to be planted this fall in anticipation of celebrating Canada's 150th birthday. And in 2000, so there's 1,000 red and white bulbs, and there'll be a template to which they will plant those bulbs. And in 2017, ideally May, when the tulips are in full bloom, there will be an image of the Canadian flag, the lovely red and white, at the fairgrounds for years to come. So this is going to be a lovely kickoff to the Canada's 150th birthday, and something that's going to be amazing to see at the fairgrounds when it does come up in the spring. And as I said, it's going to be in a prominent spot within that community garden that will have year after year Canadian flag will pop up and grow. So it's an amazing thing. There were 150 gardens in Canada that were awarded the prize, and we're very glad and honored that Port Perry's permaculture garden was awarded one of those.
Great. Councillor Watton?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just once again wanted to remind everyone that the Fall Festival, the Chili Cook-Off and Car Show is occurring on October 1 from 1 to 5. I understand Uncle Donnie and Auntie Betty are putting in chili to challenge the mayor, who is last year's winner. So anyway, if you're available, it would be terrific to come and join us. Thank you.
Are they each putting their own separate one, or are they teaming up? Takes two of you to beat me. Councillor Drew?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want everybody to dust off their cowboy hats and boots because the Winding Roads event is this Saturday night. It's hosted by Big Brothers Big Sisters at Sunnybrae Golf Club, and it's a huge fundraiser for them, and we're hoping that it's going to be very successful. So make sure you get your tickets. They're going fast, and we hope to see you there. I also wanted to remind everybody about the Age-Friendly Community Forum on September the 30th, between 10 and 3 at Deer Creek Golf and Country Club. This is a great opportunity for seniors and others to express their views on how to be an age-friendly community. Thank you.
Councillor Somerville. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had the pleasure of going to the Bethesda Reach WI yesterday. They were holding their 60th anniversary, 60 years this group has been going, at the Seniors Building in Uxbridge, and I had the privilege of bringing greetings from Scugog, along with Mayor Geraldine O'Connor, and she brought greetings from Uxbridge, and my mother and my sister-in-law were given life memberships at that meeting, so it was quite nice for a family affair. Thank you. Great. Councillor Guido.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would just like to congratulate the BIA on a fabulous event yesterday. Hopefully all of you were downtown yesterday to enjoy our Harvest Festival, which was the Chili Cook-Off. We received notification today that the People's Choice Awards went to Willow Tree Farm, so we'd like to congratulate them on their win. Second place was Port Perry Smokehouse, and third place went to Harrington's, and the judge's choice went to Port Perry Villa. For those of you that don't attend the event, it is a fantastic community event for all ages to come out and fill your belly with chili.
Councillor Kett.
Thank you, Mayor, and yes, it is a team because it's Betty and I, so that'll be a team that takes you down. I'd also like to thank the volunteers for our annual golf tournament. Some of them are in the crowd now, Diane and Lori and Lisa. Thank you very much. They raised a lot of money for Scugog Youth.
Yes, and I don't know if we have the numbers yet for how much that is raised, so seeing a no. And also, Regional Councillor Drew and myself attended 150th Ontario Regiment Gala at the Tribute to the Troops at the GM Centre on Saturday night, and it was over 500 people in attendance, and it was a great event. So, any other announcements from council? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to presentations and public hearings. Look at that, right on time for 6:40. So, at this time, I'll ask Diane Knudsen, is already here, to proceed to the front, and this portion of the meeting has been set aside for a statutory public information meeting held under Section 34 of the Planning Act for zoning bylaw amendment application Z08-2016 for Clark Consulting Services on behalf of Youngfield Farms Limited. It is important that the public express their views either in person or in writing prior to decisions being made by this council. If you wish to file an appeal of council's decision to the Ontario Municipal Board, you must first speak to the matter at this public meeting or provide a written submission before a zoning bylaw is passed. If you do not, you will not be added as a party to a hearing by the OMB unless the board determines there are reasonable grounds to do so. Public notice was served by the Township of Scugog in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act. So Diane, at this time, would you please proceed with your presentation?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
On April 13th of this year, Township staff participated in a pre-consultation meeting regarding a proposal to sever a dwelling deemed surplus as a result of the consolidation of the subject farm parcel with an adjacent farm to the east. The meeting also included discussion relating to the submission of a zoning bylaw amendment application to the Township as required by the Region of Durham official plan. On June the 8th, the rezoning application was received from Bob Clark of Clark Consulting Services on behalf of Youngfield Farms. Application was deemed complete for processing on July 18th. Planning justification report, agricultural assessment, an inventory of land holdings, and environmental site screening were submitted in support of the application. Purpose of this report is to present preliminary information with respect to the application for this statutory public meeting. A future staff report will include an analysis of any public comments heard tonight, together with any written comments received, and include a recommendation on the rezoning application. Personal notice concerning this application was provided to all property owners within 400 feet of the subject lands, and a sign has been placed on the property to notify the general public of the application. The notice was also placed on the website. Property is located at 3230 Beacock Road. The size of the entire parcel is approximately 131 acres. Is that going to work for me? No. Oh, you can't see it. Anyway, it's that yellow dotted area there. Let's see, where was I? There. The applicants are proposing to sever a 1.2 acre parcel, noted in red on the screen, and it contains a 1.5-story dwelling, what appears to be an old cottage, identified as a 1-story frame dwelling on the sketch provided, and a frame shed. The proposed severed parcel is to be rezoned from agricultural to a rural residential zone to recognize the smaller lot size. The balance of the farm is to be retained and will be consolidated with the farm to the east, which is noted in blue, and that area will total approximately 228 acres. The retained lands are to be rezoned to agricultural holding, and environmental protection zones to prohibit any future residential uses and any further severances. The environmental features identified on the retained land include both significant wetland and forest areas. The 1.5-story frame dwelling is serviced by private water and wastewater systems. Should be noted that should the application be approved, the structure identified as the 1-story frame dwelling located on the west side of the property will be rendered uninhabitable and used as a detached accessory structure for the severed parcel. It should also be noted that the frame barn, a metal shed, and 4 metal storage bins will be removed from the retained parcel to comply with the minimum distance separation requirements of the Ministry of Ag, Food, and Rural Affairs. Youngfield Farms Limited is the owner of 19 farm parcels totaling now over 3,300 acres within the Township of Skewgog. A concurrent application for severance has also been filed with the Region of Durham to sever the smaller lot. The farm parcel will be retained and consolidated with the farm immediately east and will add to the extensive agricultural holdings of Youngfield Farms. This parcel presently contains a dwelling that is not required by the farm operation or any of its employees. Staff have performed a preliminary analysis of the planning policy considerations associated with the application, and they're outlined in our staff report. It is the opinion of staff that the proposed zoning bylaw amendment complies with the provincial policy statement and the Greenbelt Plan and conforms to the official plans of both the Township and the Region of Durham. Application has been reviewed by several agencies and internal departments, and no objections or major concerns were noted. As previously mentioned, any comments received tonight, along with any written comments received, will be considered by staff in the analysis of the application in a future staff report that will include a recommendation to council to either approve or not approve the application. Mr. Mayor, that concludes my presentation, and I'd be happy to answer any questions council may have.
Thank you very much, Diane. Any questions from council? Councillor Kett?
Thank you, Mayor. I just was wondering, is there any buildings on the parcel that it's adjoining, or?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Kett, no. The parcels were removed when that property went through the same process.
Yeah. So basically, we have a huge parcel of property that no one can ever build on again.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions from council? Just one quick question, Ms. Knutson. Do we know the acreage that's actually not part of the EP zones, or is it not required for separating that out? It's really between Court of Conservation and the
I could
owners.
calculate that for you tomorrow if you like, but I don't have those figures today.
I was
It's
just-
not required as part of the application.
So Court of Conservation, based on history and the report, would be dealing with the EP or the protected,
Yes.
environmentally protected area there. Okay. Okay, thank you very much. No other questions from council? So at this time, I'd like to ask Mr. Clark to proceed with a presentation if you have one, and I have a feeling it's going to be that Diane may have covered it off, but you'll have the opportunity anyways. Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council, and members of the public. And you're absolutely correct. Diane has done a very thorough job, and staff report is very complete. I really don't have very much to add, but I certainly would be willing to answer any questions.
Okay, any questions from council for Mr. Clark?
Hi, Paul.
All right. Seeing none, your job's easy at this time, so...
Yes.
Now, at this time, are there any members of the public who wish to speak to the application? Please proceed to the microphone at the back, at the podium there, and proceed to state your name and municipal address for the record. So, at this time, if I see nobody going to the microphone, and no public input, so are there any further questions from council? Okay, so thank you very much, Mr. Clark, and thanks very much, Ms. Knudsen. Members of council, I'll now call for a motion on the staff report that begins on page 15 on your agenda. We have, sorry, streamlined here. This one. Yep, so we have a mover already, Councillor Watton. We just need a seconder for the motion that's there on page 15, Councillor Somerville. And that motion, just for the benefit for those who are not looking at it, says that the report dated September 19th, 2016, entitled Zoning Bylaw Amendment Application Z08-2016, Youngfield Farms Limited, 3230 Beacock Road, parcel lots 8 and 9, concession 6, Ward 4, information report be received, and that staff report back to council with recommendation on this report at the earliest opportunity. Any questions from council on that motion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you very much. All right, so we don't have any delegations. Page 8, we now have reports, departmental reports, 9.1.1, sorry, 9.2.2 with Mr. Puckrin here, page 25.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, members of council. The purpose of this report is to make a recommendation on a proposed secondary dwelling agreement with Mr. Donald McLeod, the owner of number 10 Jeffrey Street. So it's located on the west side of Jeffrey Street in Prince Albert. The property is serviced by municipal water and is on a private wastewater system. On July 26th of this year, the owner made application to the township seeking permission to live in an existing dwelling on the property during the construction of a new house on the property. The applicant's plan is to demolish the current structure upon completion of a new dwelling. The dwelling has not been designated, the existing dwelling on the property, has not been designated under the Ontario Heritage Act and is not on the township's heritage registry. Staff have performed an analysis of the planning policy considerations associated with this request, and the proposal conforms to the intent and the purpose of the Durham Region Official Plan and the Township of Skugog Official Plan. It's recommended that the request be granted, subject to the owner entering into an appropriate agreement that will be registered on the title of the property. This agreement is commonly referred to as a second dwelling agreement, and it's here for council's consideration as attachment 2 to this report. So the agreement achieves a number of things. It grants permission for the owner to reside in the existing dwelling during construction of a new home. It addresses the applicant's obligations to remove the original dwelling within a timely manner, and it requires a refundable security deposit to ensure that the task is completed to the satisfaction of the township. The applicant has already been before the Committee of Adjustment and has obtained relief to reduce the rear setback, the required rear setback for the zone from 15 meters to 7 meters to accommodate this new house. That can be seen in the site plan below on the screen here. So the original dwelling is identified in pink. The proposed dwelling will be attached to an existing garage on the property and is shown in the yellow outline. So as mentioned, the applicant has already received relief from the Committee of Adjustment to reduce the rear setback from 15 meters to 7 meters. And this requirement for relief is largely driven by the fact that the existing septic system is located in the front yard. Otherwise, this proposal conforms to all other requirements of the zoning bylaw. In terms of environmental considerations, the reuse and recycling of building materials is encouraged from a sustainability and waste reduction perspective. In conclusion, staff are of the opinion that this proposal conforms to applicable planning policies and is reasonable under the circumstances. It's recommended approval to maintain the second dwelling during construction be granted, subject to the owner entering into an agreement as described in the report. That concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, questions, Mr. Puckrin, Councillor Guido?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not familiar with the process for the Committee of Adjustment, but does notification go out to neighboring properties that this topic is going to be discussed?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yeah, the Planning Act requires that applications for a Committee of Adjustment, public notice is served to all properties within 60 meters of the subject property, so this was done. A sign is also posted on the property to notify any neighbors who fall beyond that 60-meter mark. Okay, and to date, has there been any opposition to this from the surrounding neighbors? Again, through you, Mr. Mayor, there was no parties in attendance that were opposed to the application at the meeting, and the appeal period has now expired, and no objection was received. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Mr. Paquin.
Councillor Somerville?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a question about follow-up. And they have to have the house removed by December 31st, 2017. Who actually follows that up in this department to make sure that the house has been totally removed and everything is back to normal again?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'll just clarify. The new dwelling, the agreement requires that the new dwelling be constructed by no later than December 31st. 2017, the dwelling that's existing now, it has to be removed by the earlier of 6 months from the date the township issues an occupancy permit, or no later than March 1st, 2018. So it's got a few more months. But the township will hold the $5,000 security deposit. If the dwelling hasn't been removed by that date, then we will undertake to take action to have the dwelling removed.
My question was, who follows it up? Who actually goes out and checks it out to make sure that it has been...
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, the building department would report back to the planning department once occupancy was issued for the new dwelling, at which point the planning department would be in touch with the owner to get an update on the status of the removal of the existing dwelling.
That's perfect, thank you.
Councillor Kett?
Thank you, Mayor. So the surety, the bond is $5,000. That was one of my questions. Is that what it is?
That's correct.
And what would that cover?
That's intended to cover the cost of removing the existing dwelling on the property. Okay. No, the new building's going to be on a septic as well. Have we got any idea when the sewers will be going through there? Are they going through Jeffrey? I'm just not sure. I might defer that question to Director Gordon.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, one of the considerations in the servicing of the Homeland property on the south side of King Street is the extension of sanitary sewers.
It hasn't been determined, however, if that extension will happen along Union or Jeffrey Street. So there is a possibility that in fact the developer of the Homeland property will be doing that sewer extension, but we have yet to determine which route it will be taking. If it is Jeffrey Street, then the existing property owners on septics on the street would have the opportunity to connect to that.
Okay, that's great, thank you.
Any other questions from council? Okay, so we have a mover and a seconder for the recommendation there, that the report dated September 19th, 2016, entitled Second Dwelling Agreement, Donald McLeod, 10 Jeffrey Street, Part Lot 6, Block D, Plan H50025, Ward 2, Information and Recommendation Report be received, and that the application to allow Donald McLeod, to reside in the existing dwelling on the property during the construction of the new dwelling, and to provide for removal of the existing dwelling upon completion of the new dwelling be approved, and that the necessary bylaw passed to authorize the execution of the agreement with the property owner substantially in the form appended as attachment 1. Any questions on that, Councillor Kett? Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Next item, we have Mr. Belfry on 9.1.3, page 34 of your agenda, and this is to deal with the Community Services and Recreation and Culture on the Scuog Community Recreation Center mini-stick area. Go ahead, Craig, with your report here.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. I'm here tonight with two feel-good reports. So our first one's about the mini-stick area at Scuog Recreation Center. Originally, back in the budget, when we did budget a year ago, we had talked about putting a mini-stick area, and it was going to be a very modest mini-stick area on the northeast corner of Pad 2 in the cold area. As we started going through discussions and talking to minor hockey about it, they came forward with an idea to us this summer about donating more money towards the mini-stick area to make it actually a lot better. And so we had a few meetings with them, and they proposed to put in just over $7,000 towards the project. And at the same time, we were talking about memorials for Tyler Hansen. As most councils are aware, we have his number and logo in the ice. We just put a more advanced logo in on Friday into the ice for him. And at that point, we were approached by his father and his company that he works for about putting more money into the project, as the cost of a really nice mini-stick area is around $20,000. So MTC has come forward with an additional $10,000 to the project to take us up to the amount to buy the mini-stick area, which has to come from Winnipeg, and that arrives tomorrow. So it was quite generous of the company and Mr. Hansen, and through this process we've been able to create an area which will, if you look at the picture that I provide with the report, it'll look exactly like that, and it'll go on Pad 2 in the lobby where the Coke machines used to be and some trophy cases. The trophy cases have been moved onto Pad 2 by staff. This area will look like a smaller hockey rink, and we'll have nets in it, and the floors being put in by Workhorse. We're buying materials from them, but they're going to install the whole mini-stick area at no cost for us, and put in the logo for Tyler Hansen at center ice at no cost for us. So through that process, minor hockey through the Tyler Hansen ball hockey tournament are going to have a pancake breakfast at the community center on October 1st and do an official opening of it. They expect around 500 people in attendance to it. So it'll be a big morning, and then we'll open up the mini-stick area, and from that point on, we expect it to be very busy with kids in there and having a lot of fun for the season. So that's where we're at, and we've maintained through this whole partnership, which is great as part of the township strategic plan, we've been able to maintain our budget level of $5,000 and get these partners to give us something that's going to be really nice for the kids. So.
Yeah, that's fantastic, and when I saw the picture reading the agenda, I thought it's going to be something that many of the other traveling hockey players see it are going to be quite envious. So, but it is I think appropriate for recognition of Tyler's life, so that's congratulations. Thank you on behalf of the township for the work you put in for it and helping coordinate this, so it's fantastic.
Myself and staff, Brenda Robinson, have been really involved in this, and it's been a good project for us, so.
Oh, that's good. Councillor Guido?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Belfry, on behalf of all the hundreds of kids that attend that arena for minor hockey, they say a huge woo-hoo. But on behalf of all the parents, we're now going to be requesting recliners, because now we know where we're going to be spending most of our evenings. As a parent who frequents that arena 4 times a week with a son who plays mini sticks in the illegal areas half the time, this is such a welcomed tribute to this young man who tragically lost his life, and it's such a celebration of what he truly loved. And anyone that knows a 8 or 9, 10, 12-year-old boy or girl knows that that mini stick area is going to be the most desired place to be in this municipality. When we travel in tournaments to Kingston, everyone can't wait to get there because they have a mini stick area, and it definitely will be the place to come and see in tournament season. So thank you for all the hard work that you put into doing this, and it will be probably one of the most used facilities or areas within the facility. So thank you very much.
Councillor Kett?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to recognize MTC and Howard Humphrey, who has done quite a bit for the community as well. They used to have quite a few businesses here and have expanded, but they haven't forgotten their roots, so I think that we should mention and thank them as well.
Councillor Back?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a question for Mr. Belfry. So, when will the mini stick area be open? Will it be open at all times? Is there certain hours, or will there, I'm sure it's going to be super busy, will teams or kids have to book? How does that work?
It'll be open at all times. For the first while, we anticipate a huge push onto it, so we're actually going to staff it with rec staff for the first, but just to monitor and make sure kids are getting their equal opportunity in there, that we'll rotate them in. Scotiabank is donating all the sticks. We're getting a whole stockpile of sticks and pucks for use in there, so we'll keep those, and we're going to have just staff monitor for, we anticipate the first month or so it'll be really busy, and then once we get to see how the flow goes, we'll be able to monitor it, but staff will be monitoring it all the time, so.
Then possibility of during the day, if elementary schools wanted to head over there, there's a possibility, should they pre-book or contact you?
They can. If it starts getting busy like that, we may have to look at some kind of booking format, but we're not usually that busy during the day, but if, I'm sure the Montessori school or the...
I think you're going to be very busy. It's a fantastic idea, and hats off to you for a fabulous addition to the community.
Councillor Watton?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of questions, Mr. Belfry. First off, how big is the footprint?
It's 16 feet. So
16 feet?
16 feet long, so. And it's about 12 feet wide.
Pardon?
16 feet long and about 12 feet wide.
12 feet, okay. And my second question, in your, in this report, it says, pursue alternative revenue sources. Was that to make it happen, or will there be a charge to use it, or what's the revenue source?
The revenue is within the next year. We haven't set the fee yet, but next year we're going to put a fee in for rink board advertising, like on the larger rink, to generate revenue of it. Right now, we're giving MTC a year because of their large donation. There's going to be a big wall board advertisement right on the wall there where the display cases used to be, so for a year, they get the prime advertising on their own. Then after that, we're going to sell advertising on the rink boards as a revenue source, so much like we do on the larger ice pads, and we're already getting requests to be in there, so, but we're saying...
But there's no plan to charge for the kids to use it? Good. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Drew, sorry, I missed you there.
Everything's been said, but I just wanted to add my congratulations and thanks for the work that you put into it, and this is a really good news story of everybody pulling together to make this thing happen, and it's really great. I did have some questions about scheduling, but they got answered, so thank you very much for everything you've done.
Councillor Somerville, did you have anything? I just thought I might do the round.
No.
everyone has asked my questions. I think this is an amazing feat for the community center. I congratulate the minor hockey as well as the community center for doing what they've done. I think this is a real honor for the Hanson family. I would love to come to the pancake breakfast to see the opening, but I'm in a chili cook-off that day, so I can't make it. I'm sorry. But anyways, my congratulations for such a wonderful, wonderful feat. Thank you.
Councillor Guido.
Thank you, and just to tag on to Councillor Watton's point, I guarantee you there'll be a spike in revenue in the concession stand by us parents having to buy stuff to fill time and for the kids, because they'll be spending way more time than they already do. So I wouldn't be surprised if you saw increased revenues there.
Just one final question on here is, will this be blocking any of those bricks that were there for the Build-A-Brick, or is it just completely in the...
No, it's right where my office is. As you go by my office, there's a cove in there, so it'll be right in there, so it won't be near that, so.
All right, yeah. Okay, any other final questions? No, that's fantastic. So we have moved by Councillor Guido, second by Councillor Drew, that the report entitled School Community Rec Center Mini Stick Area be received for information. Any other questions or comments on that? All those in favor? Carried. All right, next report, Mr. Belfry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The next report is, for information again, it's the 10th Annual Scugog Sports Hall of Fame Induction Ceremony. Every year we have this event, which is attended by over 300 people, has excellent attendance every year. This year the committee is proud to announce 4 inductees, Builder Dave Dalton for broomball baseball, athletes Paula Zekel and Heather Cerrone for marathon canoe racing. They won the 1980-84 National Marathon Canoe Race. And the Team OMHA 75-76 Midget C Toyota Wheels All-Ontario Champions. Also this year, we're very happy to announce that Brian McFarland is going to come and be our guest of honor and speaker. As everybody knows, Brian McFarland was heavily involved in Hockey Night in Canada, Peter Puck. He has an excellent collection, well-known author, so we're looking forward to a great night, and this year is our 10th anniversary, so the committee is very excited about this event and looking forward to inviting the public out for another great induction ceremony this year. So,
great. Questions from council, Mr. Belfry? Was the time on there, or the...
Yep. So it's been moved up a half hour this year from previous years, just to allow people to get into the building a bit better and get the ceremony going. Sometimes people talk long, and we're trying to keep it early this year, so depending on who we induct.
Perfect. Okay. Well, seeing no questions there, we have moved by Councillor Guido, second by Councillor Drew, that the report entitled 10th Annual Scugog Sports Hall of Fame Induction Ceremony be received for information. All those in favor? Carried. Thanks very much, Mr. Belfry. More good news. Just keep coming. So now we have Mr. Allure, our CAO, who's doing a report on page 41 regarding corporate realignment.
Thank you, Your Worship, and my report, not as exciting as the mini-stick area, that's for sure. I sure wish they had that when my kids were that age, so I echo all of Council's comments in that regard. I'm very pleased to bring this report forward this evening. My presentation will provide an overview of the corporate realignment plan and the core services Service Efficiency Review Report that's before you this evening. So, a little bit of history. Where does this come from? Why are we doing this at this time? Township recently passed its strategic plan in June of this year, and within that plan there's 2 key strategic directions that point to this review. The financial stability direction, which talks about smart growth, development, and innovative funding, and
delivery of service, and improving the financial sustainability of the township. Additionally, in terms of municipal services, the strategic direction points to having efficient, effective, and affordable services for the residents of Scugog. Now, within those strategic directions, there's some key initiatives I wanted to bring forward. Firstly, that the plan calls for the township to implement modern technologies to improve productivity and customer service. And it asks for a pursuit of customer service excellence. And then, of course, specifically mentions carrying out a core service review. So again, why do this? Why make these changes that I'm proposing? Well, the landscape is changing, both internally and externally. We're seeing a significant senior staff turnover. You know that we've recently had 2 director vacancies. One's we filled, one we're working on now. We have a pending retirement in senior management by the end of the year. We're looking to fill a deputy fire chief position. And actually, with that pending retirement as of the end of the year, our clerk will have the most seniority on senior management, which is less than a year. But I look at that as a real opportunity, an opportunity for innovation and an opportunity for new ideas and creativity. Secondly, the growing financial pressures that we face. We know we've had a limited assessment growth in the past. We're looking to free up operating dollars where possible. Although we've had slow growth in the past, we're about to see an increase in development. And staff have been working on development forecasts and will soon be presenting those to council. From 2017 to 21, we'll see approximately 600 units in Port Perry and over 800 units in that 5-year period in the township of Scugog. That's strong growth for this municipality, growth it hasn't seen in some time. And of course, that's coincides with the upgrade to the non-Quan water pollution control plant. Why also? Increasing customer service and service delivery. Council expects this, and so does the public. I want to thank council, senior management, and staff for their assistance in the preparation of this report. This is not all of the CAO's ideas. These ideas came through past efforts. They came through just one-on-one discussions with council, discussions during the recruitment process with myself, one-on-one meetings with each department head, as well as consultation with the senior management team as a group. In addition to that, from the bottom up, we had a staff session with all municipal staff where we asked for their feedback and received that feedback and incorporated it into the report. In terms of the review, it's structured into 2 phases. The first phase is a corporate realignment. And the goal of this realignment is to position the municipality for optimum performance for at least the next 10 years. And it's felt that an organizational alignment is necessary in order to be successful in achieving these strategic priorities. Position and prepare us for growth. The current structure does not reflect a logical grouping of services. What I mean by that is recreation is in with land use planning, crossing guards with bylaw and clerks. There are some key municipal functions that are not assigned to any particular department, such as economic development and tourism. And you'll see in this report we're specifically putting an emphasis in this area and assigning it to a department head. Corporate communications and strategic initiatives, we're assigning that. Customer service and procurement control are areas that will have new definition. Additionally, just some cleanup. certain titles don't adequately reflect the functions of the position, and some are outdated terminology. For instance, we still use the term of clerk secretary. I think an outdated position title, looking at refreshing that with titles such as legislative service associate, committee coordinator, community services associate. We're not changing the responsibilities, but modernizing the title. Once this phase is completed, and then I'm anticipating this will become effective immediately, there will be a transition over the next couple of months. We should be in full swing by the end of November. In the new year, we would move to a phase 2, which is the core services review and service efficiency review. And what we plan to do in that area is to review our current approaches to delivering service in each of the departments, look at potential changes to service delivery. And also, we're going to look at the services we provide. Those core services, are they legislated? Do we need to do them? Is there justification for doing them? Is there a better way to do them, a more efficient way? And I'm proposing that would be commenced in the new year. So this is the proposed organizational structure that's before you this evening. Maintains the 5 departments. There's a renamed Community Service Department, which is formerly the Public Works and Parks Department, and we've added in Rec and Culture. I'll talk about that in a minute. This is the outward-facing services of the municipality, and on the other end of the flow chart, we've renamed the Clerk's Department to Corporate Services, and this is the inward-facing services, and you'll see in a minute we've added responsibilities in this department to address such things as corporate communications, strategic initiatives, and customer service. And the 3 departments in the middle are more your regulatory departments. Finance, we'll talk about, there's some key areas that we're suggesting in that department. We've renamed the middle department, was the former community service. We've renamed development services, included economic development and tourism bylaw, and this is to put focus on business and development that we're going to see over the next 5 to 10 years. In the finance department I'll speak of, but formalizing the title that it currently goes by, but Fire and Emergency Services, but that has never been formalized. So I'll quickly walk through each of the new departments and talk about some of the changes. So again, the Community Service Department, formerly Public Works and Parks, brings the recreation and parks function into this area. And what it's doing is reconnecting the inside rec function with its outside arm. And from this we see an area where efficiencies can be gained and cross-training can happen within the department. We're looking to move the crossing guards to the Community Service Department. The crossing guards don't logically fit in the clerk's area. We think it more aligns with this area of traffic and roads. Bears little resemblance to a bylaw function, although bylaw can still provide some backup when needed. Some of the key initiatives we see happening in this area in the short term, looking at a 10-year forecast for infrastructure needs, a comprehensive traffic bylaw update, and this is important because it could impact service level standards, such as when we plow roads and when we don't, and when we maintain roads and at what level. And this bylaw is out of date and doesn't properly reflect the speed limits that are in place in the township or not in place. part of the review we need to do is to look at community facility utilization. That would be part of the core service review. Of course, we know about the Line 6 reconstruction and a downtown parking utilization study. In the finance area, there are some significant gaps in the area of procurement and use of budgeting and purchasing software that need to be closed. So that is the first notable change, addressing the oversight of the area of procurement. And our finance department, I think, just needs a look through, I call it a modernization lens. Not that they're doing anything that's inappropriate, but just some upgrading in certain areas. Talk a bit about that now. One of the areas I know in speaking with council is the need, you would like to see a financial sustainability plan, and that's on our work plan. And with that, a reserve fund policy. And the next two bullets here are with respect to the procurement. We have a procurement bylaw that's about 10 years old. It needs updating, and we need to implement controls and auditing in the area of procurement. In terms of budgeting software, this is very much needed to improve efficiencies within the department. We are going to be bringing this forward through the budgeting process this year. I'll review the DC background study. We're going to see considerable growth. We'd like to work with the department to have a look at that study to make sure it's all inclusive for the growth that we're going to experience over the next 5 to 10 years. In the payroll area, we're looking to some modernization there with the use of some software to better track vacation, sick leave, family time, and hours worked by employees. Currently, it's a manual process. And something we've already worked on and will be bringing forward to council is a semi-annual review of the status of approved capital projects. Reporting on, and we'll be reporting on this to council at the next meeting. It's a use it or lose it policy that I would like to institute. If you don't use your capital projects, you don't get started on them, they go back into the hopper for next year. And if they sit dormant for more than a year, they go back into the fund for competition in the next budget. In terms of development services, notable changes, bylaw services, plan to move them to development services. See a link here with the building code and the zoning bylaw. And I mentioned economic development and tourism will be assigned to this department, putting a focus on economic development and having a department head responsible for that initiative. And we need to provide more administrative support on the first floor for the front counter in regard to the building area planning and bylaw services, so they can spend more time on their core responsibilities, less time on administrative matters. Some of the key initiatives in this area from the report, looking at development approval software. We have software. Is it doing the job we need it to do? A competitive bidding process for planning consulting services. We will still need planning consultant services going forward, but we should take a look at, are we getting the best bang for our dollar with respect to those services? And then just looking at the development approval process with this development coming, is it as efficient as it can be as we move forward? Looking at concurrent reviews and such. And we've had some discussion about community improvement plans, and we'll be working on that and bringing some ideas forward for council in the next few months. Also, we'd like to improve the process for responding to verbal and written compliance for zoning. This area here, I'm finding is, through discussions with staff, it's taking a considerable amount of their time, and we're going to look at streamlining this. Fire and emergency services, some of the changes that need to occur is improved communication within the department. We do have a fire master plan underway that I'm sure will be addressing this. This is communication between staff and management and between career staff and volunteer staff. And a review to ensure that we're providing the, optimum training for our fire staff. Again, key initiatives, the fire master plan, the emergency plan and EOC members' roles needs updating. As you know, we're looking at succession planning for the fire chief, and of course, the renaming of the fire department officially to Fire and Emergency Services. Corporate services. Notable changes, as I mentioned, adding corporate communications, and in that regard, establishing the strategic direction for corporate communications and marketing, expanding and enhancing the internal and external communications and marketing. Let's get the good word out. Let's have strategies for some of our key initiatives. Long-term strategic planning and corporate policy development will also be assigned to this department, so they will be championing the strategic plan. Customer service, we want to have a customer service excellence environment, and we'll be this fall bringing forward customer service standards and talking to council about training with respect to customer service. Some of the responsibilities that the current clerks area have that will be formalized is the IT function, which I understand was moved there in the spring, overseeing the legal service contract with the Region of Durham, and all property and acquisition and disposal matters. I can tell you, Council, we have about a dozen leases in place that require regular maintenance and review in that regard. And some of the key initiatives we're working on here, of course, is meeting management enhancements. Our clerk has been working on that over the summer months, and you've seen some of these come through at the start of this session. The core services efficiency review, this department will be heading that up on behalf of myself. Records management improvements. An IT strategy, I think we all know that we need to look from a strategic perspective at our information technology system and how a cloud conversion can fit into those plans. Finally, as I mentioned, development of customer service standards, community engagement through the web, and also undertaking a competitive tendering process for future specialized legal work. Not the legal work provided by the region, but those legal services we provide for higher level legal matters and OMB disputes. In terms of the Office of the CAO, some of the notable changes, improved staff recognition tools and celebration of successes. In fact, we're planning a staff recognition day on September the 30th with a barbecue for staff at the lunch hour at the Port Perry Community Center, and council will be, of course, invited to that, and it's a start of some other ideas we want to work on over the next year. We need to look at a salary administration policy or process. We don't have one. It's very difficult to assess a job when it changes, and so that is an area that we'll need to pursue. We are currently, as a senior management team, working on a succession planning program, which we will be bringing back to council, and like to expand, of course, performance management to all staff. It's not currently consistent within the municipality. A couple of other thoughts are an orientation program for new staff and development of a long-term staffing strategy that's tied into growth. And just a couple more, I'll wrap up. On an administrative item, from my perspective as the CAO, I'm looking for council's authority to have the authority to manage the administrative and staffing matters of the organization, and in that regard, that includes hiring of vacancies, discipline, or termination, if the case may be. I want to assure council that in any of those discipline or termination matters, I of course would be consulting with council. But it would be the authority of the CAO. Quarterly reports, currently there's many reports that come to council on a quarterly basis. I've looked at them, and a large number, I don't think it's the most efficient use of staff time, and I don't think much is changing from quarter to quarter for council. So I'm suggesting that we look at these, and where they're not warranted from an actual change from quarter to quarter, they come forward as semi-annual reports to council. And in terms of policy approval process, we'll be reporting back within this area in conjunction with a delegated authority report, but it's really looking at those policy matters, high-level policy matters that are council's area, and those administrative matters that should be left with myself and the senior management committee. And right now, the policy says that all policy development, regardless of its administrative nature or otherwise, should go through council. Finally, next steps. Should council approve the structure this evening, the new structure would become effective immediately, with the idea there will be some transition over the next month or so as things settle out. For sure would be up and running, have the confidence, get my confidence of that by the end of the year. And the core service and efficiency review is a matter that we would budget some consulting dollars for some help. There was money in the budget this year for this, $25,000 I believe, and we're just planning to roll that over to next year to have a fresh start in the new year. And then, as I mentioned, I would like to work with the senior management team with respect to a staffing strategy, with respect to growth, and a succession policy strategy based on the pending retirements that we're going to see in the organization. Once again, I'd like to thank everyone for their input. I should have brought my water with me. My voice is getting squeaky. But thank you very much, and welcome to answer any questions I may have.
Okay. Questions from council?
Thank you. I'd appreciate that.
Councillor Kett?
Thank you, Mayor. I've always strived that we should have better communication, and this presentation is completely different from what I received last week. So I have a number of questions, but I can't really tell where, like they're all 2.2 and whatever. So I wish it was sort of relayed that this is the presentation that was going to be.
Was there something specifically different that wasn't in the report that was in the presentation?
Well, this glosses over the whole situation, and like I said to the CAO in our meeting, I would have appreciated to have like a workshop with council so that everybody could get their comments in before it came to council. There's a number of things that I want to make sure that our efficiencies are right on, and that we're going in the same direction. I don't disagree, but I just needed I've got a number of questions that I just can't refer to.
You don't have a hard copy of the report, do you, Paul? Because maybe Councillor Kett can look at that while we're going to the rest of the council's questions.
No, I've got the report.
No, not the report, the presentation.
I do have a hard copy of the presentation.
Yeah, just because I think Councillor Kett's trying to reference something, but it was on one of the screens, so he can look at that and we'll move on to other questions. Thanks. Are there questions from council? Councillor Drew.
Thank you. I found this a very welcome report. And I have to commend you, Mr. CAO, you've only been here a short while, and you have got a real flavor of this municipality. You could very well have arbitrarily put something in place, but I appreciate the fact that you spoke to everybody, council, senior staff, people with boots on the ground that know our township best, because they've been working here, some of them, for years and years and years. And it appears by your report that they were very candid. That's very valuable advice for you to move forward. I find that your report is well thought out. I totally support it. I am just amazed at the depth that this report goes into, and I want to thank you very much, and I certainly support this report. I do have one little question. I just saw it there. About engineering technician, what was it? The word that you used, I think it was an engineering technician, it might have been planning.
No, it was an engineering tech.
Yeah. That was a word that you used.
Yeah, I have it here.
I have to get used to doing this online, because I'm used to writing...
Normalizing.
Normalizing. What did you mean by that?
Well, currently looking at the workload of the engineering tech, and we have two engineering techs. One is a full-time municipal employee, the other is on a contract, so to say, temporary full-time. And looking at whether there's a justification, I call it normalizing, or converting that temporary to full-time, based on the activity that we see coming before us. And it would be wonderful if we could just extend the contract a little further. However, this person's been on contract for such an extended time that this is a problem with the union at this point. So we haven't made a determination with respect to that. We're looking through the budget process and working with the union to see how we could handle this on a go-forward.
Okay, thank you. And congratulations.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments.
Councillor Back?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have a question regarding the normalizing as well for the engineering tech. So what happens if you hire that position full-time, so you now have two engineering techs full-time, and we go through our small little blip of growth, and now you've got two employees where you may only need one? What do you do then?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and the methodology that we've discussed, myself and senior management team, is we're going through a growth cycle. We know it's going to be 5 years, maybe pushing out to 7 or 8 years. We're uncertain after that point because of the servicing allocation. To accommodate growth in the development area, a temporary full-time is the best approach. We're going to see this little blurb. We're not sure where it's going to go after that. So that would be the desire.
So the position would be called temporary full-time instead of actual concrete full-time, two positions?
That's the way that I would envision if we needed building inspector assistance, if there was some planning assistance that was needed to get through this bump, that we would be looking at temporary full-time to get us through that, contract for lack of a better word. What I was trying to convey is the employee that's currently on temporary full-time contract, unfortunately, his contract cannot be extended past the end of the year because of union time limits. So we're in a bit of a bind on that, but we're not finished looking at that entirely, and we'll see where we end up with that. Any news, I just want to assure council, any proposal for staff other than vacancies, of course, need to be approved by council, and would not be done without the approval of council.
But we didn't have two full-time techs before, right?
We've had two full-time techs for a couple of years now.
Full-time, so he's replacing... Okay, it just makes sense if you're going to have a small blip. That I like the temporary wording, because you may find there's an evolution of needs for staff. You may have the need for an engineering technician during that phase, and then you may all of a sudden need the need for perhaps recreation, because you may have increased population and children that need, so you need to be flexible and not put in concrete positions that we're going to have to pay for years when we don't need to. So that's my words of caution for that.
And I'm in line with that, and when I say we, Senior Management Group is planning to bring a report to council early this fall on the development forecast. I've just received from the group that forecast as of Friday. That's why I was able to speak to numbers around 600 units over the 5-year period in Port Perry, 800 in total for the municipality over the 5-year period. I would like to look at those numbers, equate that to work and assessment growth, and bring that back to council for some discussion on what might be needed over that 5-year period to accommodate that growth.
Councillor Somerville?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of questions to the CAO. Thank you for your core service review. I've wanted this done for the past couple of years, and we finally got it. And I really enjoyed reading it because it goes really into depth, and it helps you understand a lot more about what's going on in the core services. I just have one question. Actually, I have two. On page 16 of 16, it says, staff expressed views that the township is waiving too many user fees and needs to take a more serious approach to non-tax revenue generation in order to keep taxes low. What does that mean?
And that did come out of the staff session that we held, and that, it was the feeling of staff, and there were a lot of agreement with the statement that was made in the session, that if we're actually looking at improving our bottom line, we should look at our user fees and revenues, and which we are doing as a senior management team, and we should not be waiving fees. There's a feeling by staff that some fees are being waived where they shouldn't be waived by council. That area we will look at through the next stage of the review and the user fee analysis that we're doing. There may be justification for council in terms of some of these fees. This is just feedback I've received from staff.
You can't give an example of that.
Well, I think, yeah, one of the examples that was given were, I guess a lot of fees were waived for the Rotary Rib Fest. Rotary Rib Fest made considerable amount of money. Maybe they should have paid for some of those fees and overtime and such. There's been, I guess, some other festivals and events that are more from a charitable perspective, and fees have been raised. And maybe if it's not the full fee, it should be a partial fee. And as I said, this came from the bottom up.
Okay. That's super, thank you. And now my other question, with the changing of the job descriptions in senior management, is this going to change the salaries?
They won't. If I want to go back to the chart, there's been a give and take, so I don't see that. On that basis, I don't see that. Like, for instance, bylaws coming into development services where recreation and culture left and went to public works and parks. The clerk's area, which will be corporate services, lost bylaw services, but gained new responsibilities with customer service and corporate communication and strategic plan. So I think it's just been a shifting of responsibilities. I think what needs to be done on a go-forward is this look at the job evaluation process in the town. There isn't one. And, where management sits as comparables to other communities. That's not something that's before you at this moment. but something that needs to be looked at some point.
Would that be brought into the next budget?
I would say not, at this point, timing probably won't permit for the 17 budget, but something we would look at that would inform the next budget.
In 2018?
Well, and maybe not, because of that year. So I guess for me, it's about, when can it be done and what's the best timing for bringing it forward. It's an awareness thing that I'm sure council would appreciate, that it is, we've been through a recruitment process now and, of many key positions, and, we need to look at how we compare to other municipalities to attract these people and keep these people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's right. I agree there. But I don't want to see a big increase going through neither, so,
Well,
because the levy will be increased at the same time.
and we're all sensitive to that, and I think it has to be related to growth. We're getting this maybe not one opportunity, because, within the built boundary of the municipality, there's ample room for growth. We're not curtailed by the 600 or 800 units. Oh, no, there's lots of growth room here.
But
So it's about working with the region and making sure we can get sewage capacity and we can continue our growth. And growth is, as someone who's moved to the community, this is a desirable place to live and work. And these units will go quick. I'm really confident on that. Or go lickety split. There's pent-up demand here.
With having these 3 certified professionals on staff that you've suggested, the engineer, the professional planner, and the CPA, that's going to also entail a big salary increase as well in the administration part of it. When did you plan on putting these into play, if you decide to hire all 3 of these?
Well, currently, we've hired a professional planner sitting with us this evening. In fact, has a master's in planning, and we were able to attract him for the upper part of our scale.
Good.
I'm hopeful that I'll be able to report tomorrow or the day after that we've finalized, recruitment of the director of finance. Person that we're talking to is a CPA.
Okay.
There's 2. And we know that the director of Parks and Public Works and Parks is retiring, and it would be our desire, I feel it would be our desire to have a professional engineer. And I feel that we can attract one, as we've done in the other 2 cases. So I'm not saying that these credentials are going to require on their own an increase in salary. If we can't find someone, I would be before council to say market is such and we can't attract it, but it hasn't been the case so far.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Councillor Kett, do you have your questions ready?
I've had my questions ready for a long time. It was where I got the answers to them. I'll just go by the questions I've got. I've got 1.2.
Page 42.
I'll have to, basically what I wanted to just mention is, I'm really happy with the amount of work that's gone into this, but I just want to make sure that our financial sustainability is put foremost out there. And that's a main concern of mine, that I want to make sure that's there. And I want the CAO to understand that. I know we've talked about that a number of times. I do have a problem with the need to have a professional engineer, as you know, Mayor, through your mayor, that we did a year ago when Cash Associates were here, find out that we didn't really need one. So there was written emails back and forth from with different opinions, so I'm just questioning that. The core service review, I've gone over a few of these with the CAO, but I wanted the core service review, I wanted to make sure that that was done as quickly as possible. I do note in, somewhere it says that staff wanted it delayed. Is that on your, that's in your
I'm
presentation somewhere?
Yes, I'm suggesting that the core service review commence early in the new year. And that, this alignment, and there's going to be some settling out, in the departments, and I think you should allow that to happen. I've talked to the senior management team. Although it'll be official if approved tonight, we understand there'll be some transition through this first budget process and through the next few months. Don't think it would be in our best interest to dive right into a core service review at this time. It would be better to start early in the new year.
Well, we'll disagree with that, but I always think that's putting the horse before the cart. Now, has there been any, oh, yeah, right. But it was a motorized cart.
Means I did all right.
Have we thought about doing any cooperatives with Brock and Uxbridge on certain items like this? Has there been any communication? See if maybe we could have a shared professional as an engineer and something like that. I know we do share the CVO when ours is off with Brock.
Mm-hmm.
Has there been any more communication for efficiencies? Because we're, stuck up here alone, all in the north.
That's a good point, and one that I haven't lost sight of, and I do think that's part of the phase two. When we look at the efficiency review with the core services, I mean, if there's opportunities, I've yet to meet with the CAO of Uxbridge and Brock. I've had conversations on the phone, but I think that's part of our next step is talking to them. Is there opportunities?
See, Uxbridge seems to me their efficiencies are a little bit different than ours. They seem to contract out quite a bit versus ours, but anyways, I'll leave that to you. But that's my opinion is like when I as the co-chair of the works, that's one of the things that we looked into last year. Yeah, and I guess the last thing was the last paragraph at 2 points. My last question was 2.6, which is, I think I've already mentioned it about the delay of the core review, and we've already agreed to disagree. I think that's like putting the cart before the horse.
Thank you.
Any other questions from council? Okay, I just have a quick one, Paul, on the recommendations. The first line says the CAO would be directed to implement phase one of the corporate realignment and the core service review immediately. And then the third line is talking about the timelines completing core services and efficiencies, or core services and services efficiency review. What was the phase one of that core services review? Was it considering the realignment? Is that what you're referring to, or is that?
Yes, Your Worship. I see this as a two-phase project. And the first phase is the realignment, and then getting the proper departments in place and putting people where they should be to optimize performance. And as you've seen from some of the initiatives, there's some obvious actions that need to be undertaken. And then we would move to the second phase, which is the core service efficiency review. And what I stating in the resolution, and maybe this will help with Councillor Kett's concern, is I'd like to bring back before the end of the year a terms of reference for the core service review to get council agreement with what that entails. A core service and efficiency review, from what I see and what you see, could be two different things. And I'd like to have council's concurrence on the direction before we march down that road and start. So I'd have something for you by the end of the year. It says, here it is, and here's some options, and how far do you want to go in each of these areas? This is what I suggest, but seek some feedback before moving forward.
And I guess my question was just clarity on the recommendations in the motion there. It's just because it says that line 1 says corporate realignment and core services review immediately, as detailed in this report. And then the third one is talking about the core services and services efficiency review. So I just wanted to make it clear that it was only what you're speaking to in this report was part of line 1. Because when you look at 1.4, the scope of review, it talks about the corporate realignment as phase 1. It doesn't talk about the core service review. That says phase 2 is core service review and service efficiency review. So I was just trying to make clarity on the recommended motion there. I didn't know if either we add service and efficiency review to the first one as well as phase 1 of it, because it's there, or just leave out the core service review on the first one.
I see. Well, I'd say to be more literally correct, it should say corporate realignment and core services review, service efficiency reviews.
Okay.
That would be more literally correct.
All right, that's what I wrote on this recommended motion.
You're quite correct, Your Worship.
Okay. So we have a mover, Councillor Drew, seconded by Councillor Watton. That motion is amended. Is that okay, Councillor Watton, too? Just with the extra adding on and service efficiency review. Any questions or other further questions to CAO? Okay, so any questions on the motion? Comments? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you very much for that thorough report. Look forward to the follow-up on that.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're now at the Regional Council report. Councillor Drew.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Durham Connect is a program initiated by the Durham Regional Police Service that is a hub table where 35 support agencies are represented to provide services and intervention to help people who've come to the attention mostly to the police. 70% of the cases originate from the police, with the rest from school boards, housing services, and other social services. Attempts are made to get to the root of the problem, and services are put in place to turn the lives around of the people whose cases are brought to the table. 249 people have been helped through this process with a 91% success rate. Between 4 and 8 agencies are involved in a collaborative interventions in each case. Currently, Durham Connect meets in South Oshawa, but plans are in place for a Durham North Connect table to be opened in the near future. Durham Region has provided a response to the Conservation Authority Act review. Included were comments on local representation, delineating between mandatory and optional programs delivered, clarification on a number of matters, delegation on some matters, clearer direction required on some matters, predictable funding, and report accountability. The region adopted a multi-year accessibility plan, which I have passed on to Councillor Watton for their advisory committee for their review. The region has passed the new procedural bylaw for the new committee structure at the region, a code of conduct, and the bylaw for the distribution of regional councillors, which will come into effect at the final passing of the triple majority process. That is the majority of municipalities representing the majority of population and the majority of regional council votes. That's my report, Mr. Mayor, and I
Okay, seconded by Councillor Guido. Any questions to Councillor Drew on the report? Councillor Kett?
Thank you, Mayor. This first item seems very interesting. I'm really not sure what it's about.
Councillor Drew?
Thank you. Yes, there's a number of individuals who have habitually come in trouble with the police. And there may be some underlying factors on that, but the police are dealing with it, and that's not maybe the most appropriate service to help these people. So a group of, say, 4 to 8 in any one particular case, service agencies get together and they will determine, well, this is really a mental health issue, it's really a housing issue, so on and so forth. So it directs the root of the problem to the services that can help that person get out of this rut that they're in.
Any other further questions? Okay, seeing none. So, motion to receive the report for information. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thank you for that report. Next is recommendations for the regular meeting of the GPNA. Our clerk, Nicole, just has a minor amendment or comment to make for it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We just had one small omission on there on page 59, the portion that talks about the recommendations of the advisory committees being endorsed. We just failed to note that the one recommendation from EDAC to appoint a new member was not endorsed, so we'll make that correction, and we'll just look for the motion to be passed as amended. And apologies for the error.
Councillor Watton?
I'd also like to make a note of an error in the budget schedule. Is now the appropriate time? Okay, so just to make note that through the budget wish list, one of the items I put in was all the roads north of 57 in Caesarea, and it should actually be the road south of 57 in Caesarea. There's only one on the north side, and... did I say it wrong again? Thank you, Chief. And that's his road that he doesn't want fixed.
The only road south of 57.
Right, so it's the roads north of 57 that go down towards the lake that really need to be looked at. Thank you.
Okay. Any other, so Councillor Kett, did you have comments? Any other questions or comments on the GPNA recommendations? Okay, we have a move by Councillor Somerville, second by Councillor Guido, that the recommendations of the regular meeting of the GPNA committee minutes held Monday, September 12th, 2016 be endorsed as amended. Any questions on that? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Correspondence, page 62 of the agenda. Just the link isn't working on yours. If you check the bookmark, you just got to scroll up a page. So, I guess the clerk, do you want to speak to it at all, or this report, which we pretty well are aware of it, the regional report's already addressed it, so we have it moved by Councillor Watt, second by Councillor Somerville, that the correspondence report dated September 19th, 2016 be endorsed, and that is the communication correspondence from Debbie Wilcox from the regional clerk, Regional Durham, for notice of the regional municipality of Durham considering the bylaw. Any questions or comments on that? All right, seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Opposed? Sorry, it was carried. So, next item is the bylaws. We have bylaw 47-16 to 49-16. Do we have a mover for all three of those bylaws? A seconder, Councillor Watton. Seconder, Councillor Drew. Okay, any questions on those three bylaws, Councillor Guido?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can I just ask for further explanation for the appointment of John Hale as a municipal enforcement officer and what that entails?
Sure, thank you. I can speak to that. So this is a typical thing that we do with the officers that work for Forest Conservation and the other conservation authorities. We give their staff, or some of their officers, the authority to enforce bylaws on their lands. In this case, it's, I believe, the traffic bylaw and the refuse bylaw. There's no financial implications or anything associated with that. They already had those powers. It's just that they've had a turnover in their staff. So we just have to remove the names of the old officers who we've given those authorities to and add it to the new officer, who is John Hale.
Any other questions or comments on those bylaws? All right, seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. So, next item is notice of motion. Any notice of motions? All right. Councillor Cat?
Thank you, Mayor, through you. I attended the BIA meeting last week and was amazed at the lack of interest with the board directors, and there seems to be no sense of urgency, especially since there was a major event this weekend. A number of the people with the BIA had to scramble to get judges for the chili cook-off contest. My conclusion was that the meeting must have been poorly communicated, since they were having problems with their website. In this case, we need to be a little more transparent. So my notice of motion would be that the BIA be directed to provide its full meeting agenda package, which means its agenda page, past minutes, reports, correspondence, etc., to the township a minimum of 3 days before each scheduled meeting, to enable a public posting on the township website, and that the BIA be directed to provide its draft meeting minutes to the township a maximum of 7 days following each meeting, to enable the public posting on the township website, and that the BIA be directed to publish a calendar of its regular scheduled meetings for the coming year on an annual basis, and that Section 4 of the bylaw 26-89 as amended be changed to replace one of the 10 regular members on the BIA board with a second council member, maintaining the board size at 11 members, 9 regular members, and 2 council members, and that Councillor Jennifer Bach be appointed to the BIA Board of Directors as the second council representative. And I will do that at the next meeting.
Our next meeting is October 3rd, where this will be brought forward. Thank you very much for your notice of motion. There's no discussion on that, so. Any other notice of motions? Okay. Seeing none, then we move on to new business. Not sure, Councillor Drew, if we maybe could just bring up about the signage for the stuff with Director Smith, just maybe to get clarity on that, what's required, if we need a resolution or not.
Been quite a bit of concern over the years, actually, about engine brakes, air brakes, whatever they call them. And we've seen in other townships that there are signs out there, please avoid the use of brakes, the engine brakes. So I don't know what our jurisdiction is. I would like to see these types of signs on all the entrances to town in the urban area, because it is a continuing problem. What is our jurisdiction? What authority do we have to enforce this?
Through the chair, the first thing I would ask is, do you want to tie it to a bylaw so that there's actual fines for the misuse of retarder brakes or engine brakes, if you will?
I guess I look to your advice on this, Director.
Well, certainly we could install signs indicating that the use of retarder brakes on municipal roads within Port Perry or within the hamlets would be restricted, but it would have no teeth without some sort of associated bylaw where people could actually be fined.
We do have that authority to fine, or that, because that's not what I understood, but I'll take your direction on that. And what do we do about, like, Highway 7A and the regional road?
We would have to ask both MTO and Durham Public Works. I mean, I could certainly ask them myself, and I have already done such, and they suggested that if council made a notice of motion or put forth a request to both Durham and MTO to voluntarily put up signs restricting the use of retarder brakes, they would likely comply.
Okay, thank you. I guess, Mr. Mayor, I would ask that if we could direct the director to do some research, come up with a report and a recommendation on this item.
Sure. I don't know if, just looking to the clerk to see if she has any input based on bylaws or at this stage what would be the best course of action, because obviously we don't want to add a report or add 6 months onto it if it's something that is being complained about, but I don't know if it's just purely a resolution from council requesting the region and the MTO to look at it, or if we want a more wholesome report looking at all the municipal roads, et cetera, and I agree, I think this is warranted, and I've seen them in other municipalities where they even say, please, no engine brakes or take breaks, yeah, so I don't know if you have any further comment or suggestions on the best way to communicate this.
Well, I'm not sure whether a report or just an ask to the region and MTO is the better option. I think probably just a council resolution requesting it might be effective enough. Just from a procedural perspective, just look for the 2/3 because to suspend the rules since this item wasn't on the agenda. And if I could just comment on the part about bylaw enforcement. Something like this would be incredibly difficult to enforce as far as something like issuing a fine. The noise bylaw is one of the most difficult bylaws to enforce because disruptive noise happens in an instance and then the truck's gone, right? And it's a he said, she said. And in order to really lay fines under the noise bylaw, we require very detailed logs of recurring instances of noise violations, so I'm not sure how realistic it would be to actually impose fines for something like this. I think a more realistic approach is probably something like signs, and then you hope for voluntary compliance.
I'm going to make a motion.
Councillor Back?
I was just going to comment that the more dense that our urban boundary becomes with the growth, the more important it is to have this. Unfortunately, common sense is not so common, and these air brakes are going off. I don't even know why they use them, but they're going off at 4 or 5 in the morning and disrupting people, especially, for instance, at the Villa. And, we really need to be looking at that as we get more urban and more densely populated, that the truck drivers need to respect the fact that they're going through an inhibited area with lots of people that really would appreciate their sleep and their quiet. And, I think even just a sign to remind, unfortunately, people might do wonders.
So I'm looking to council if we want to make this formalized with a resolution 2/3. We can still speak to it if there's going to be a motion for it. So, is this a desire of council that we have something? Okay, so we'll look for a 2/3 majority to suspend the rules of procedure. All those in favor? Carried. So now looking for a motion, Councillor Drew, or Councillor Clerk. Clerk is going to just come up with a draft for this, just to...
I might need some help with the wording afterwards, but something along the lines of that council direct the Director of Public Works and Parks to formally request that the MTO and region install signs not permitting the use of engine brakes on roads which I have forgotten the names of.
Within the urban boundary. Within the urban boundary, perhaps? If you say entrance, then once they're in, they may end up using them again.
try, but, I was hoping for a report and a recommendation, but
I think,
we can do it this way.
I think this is good. Say one thing. Counselor Cat, yes, your opportunity here.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wonder, is this a problem somewhere? Like, is there a road? A specific road?
Yes.
Oh.
Specific roads, we've
Specificize it. Sorry?
7A,
7A?
Simcoe Street.
Okay, so that's MTO.
Yeah.
And, on Reach Road? Reach?
Reach Street,
Okay.
Simcoe
Yeah,
Street.
so they're all, yeah. So that's what you want to put, is in the urban boundaries? Yeah.
All right.
I live on the island.
Any other, and I think, I don't know if we have issues in the outer hamlets or not. I'm just trying to think in Greenbank specifically. I don't know if, like, that's definitely a high-traffic truck zone, Seagrave as well, and, yeah, just, we want to make it open-ended enough that, you know, I don't know if there's going to be a balking at the cost of the signage, but it's like I said, if it's voluntary compliance and it's the sake of a sign at both ends of the entrance, and it could, you know, reduce it somewhat, I think it'd be well-received, so. Okay, so I don't know if you have captured enough with that. I think we got the essence of what we're trying to do here, so, Councillor Cat?
Thank you, Mayor. Just before we go on, should we state that we will state the locations within the boundaries of Epsom, within the boundaries of Greenbank? Because I can see Greenbank would be a very big problem. I mean, with Highway 12 there. So, but do you want to state those, or what? Do we want to just generalize?
I think the director had identified it as within urban boundaries and hamlet boundaries. That just kind of generalizes it so that...
But they're going to be posting the signs. Wouldn't it be good to tell them where we'd like the signs?
I can attach a list.
Yeah. Thank you.
It's the gist of it, I think they got it.
Okay, I'll do my best here. I can't even read my own writing. Okay. That council direct the Director of Public Works and Parks to formally request that the region and MTO install signs restricting the use of engine brakes on regional roads and entrances to the township within the urban boundary and the hamlet boundaries.
Just add and provincial roads, regional and provincial roads.
Got it.
Any questions? That's clear? Do we have that? Do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Back? Okay, so, moved by Councillor Drew, second by Councillor Back. Any questions on that motion? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Confirming bylaw, or any other new business? See none. Confirming bylaw. We need a, mover and a seconder for the confirming bylaw 50-16, Councillor Kett, seconded by Councillor Somerville. All those in favor? Carried. And motion to adjourn. Councillor Watton, seconded by Councillor Kett. Those in favor? Carried.
Thought you said 8 o'clock. I said 8:30. We were done before 8:30. Yeah, you said 8. I had it 8:30. Well,